Hi, welcome to this video. I am Amber. I am an oil painter and I make landscapes of colorful sunsets about the connection with our loved ones who are not here anymore. And today I want to talk about oil painting and where to start. I've been oil painting more than 10 years now. It's by far my favorite medium. I've tried a lot of mediums, a lot of paints, and I keep gravitating towards oil paint. So I thought today I would make a video on how to use it, what supplies to buy. So hopefully you can start oil painting this year. First off, let's start with colors. For every color you will need two options, which is a warm color and a cool color. Cool yellow and a warm yellow, which are essentially like a lemon yellow and a yellow medium. Warm red and cool red, which are like a vermilion or a red medium or a quinacridone color or a carmine. And for the blues, you will need a warm blue, like an ultramarine, and a cool blue, like a cyan. And at the end, for the browns, we need a cool brown, like a yellow ochre, and a warm brown, like a burnt umber. The reason you need two of each is because of the color palette and where they lie. If you want to mix a good orange, you will use yellow and red. You will use the warm ones. So when you mix up the yellow medium and the red medium, you will get a bright orange. Well, if you get the cool yellow and the cool red, you will get more of like a muddy color. Same applies for if you want to mix a green, you get the cool tones. So you get the lemon yellow and the cyan color. So you get like a true bright green. What you will also need is a white. I have this large tube. You don't need a large tube. You can just buy like one of the small ones like these. The reason I have such a big tube is because it's cheaper and I use a lot of white to like mix the lighter shades. You may notice I don't have a black, and that is because I mix my own dark shades with burnt umber and ultramarine. These two make up like a very, very dark, almost black shade, but it gives more of a deep shade. I do have a black, but I never use it because it leaves like a dull, like flat color. And when you use the blue and the brown, it gives more of a multi-layered color. Like you see in the old masters, like Vermeer, they never used black. They always had a mix of the blue and the brown to give it more dimension. For brushes, I have a lot, but I mainly gravitate towards a few. First of all, my most used brush is this really big one. And the reason I use this big and not bigger is because they didn't have it at the art store. This is the biggest one they sold. But I usually start with like the big brushes to like block out my my colors and my painting, and so I start really big and then go smaller. But for starting, I would recommend you get 3, like a big, a medium, and a small, and then I would suggest getting a really large one. And optional, but if you like, there are also these ones which are kind of square but also rounded. The reason you want to get those is because they don't leave brush marks. Like if you paint with a square one, your paint strokes will be visible, like you will see like tiny squares. And with one like these, which is called a filbert, I guess. Like in Dutch we will call it like a cat tongue, because it looks like a cat tongue, because it has the rounded edges. If you want to get clean results, you'll need one of these. All of my brushes are from Da Vinci, and this is their college line. I also have their more expensive line, but I like the college ones because they're like very affordable. These are from the local hobby store, and these are like really cheap and practical. They're all synthetic, by the way. I do have real. This is a pure red sable. I tend to not use them because I think I'm a little bit scared to use them. So I will gravitate towards the synthetic ones. I also have a few of these, which are like synthetic pig's hair, and some oil painters like these, but I do not at all. I think they lose their hairs when painting and they leave their strokes, so you get like this texture as a texture on your canvas. So if you like a texture, then get the pig's hairs, but if you like smoother options, go for the synthetic ones. Also with brushes, they have a lot of options, those value packs and stuff. But get one from an actual brand and not from a discount store. Or I have those brushes and it just tend to lose shape, let go of hairs, or oil painting is hard enough. Splurge a little on the brushes. Next I want to talk about surfaces. I mainly paint on two kinds. What I would recommend is painting on MDF board. I get these like in a big size and then cut them up accordingly, and then I prime them with gesso. These hold their shape really well, like these are like hard solid, so when painting they won't like move. Like pounding the canvas, these really hold their shape well. But what you could also do is get a canvas board. Like it has a canvas texture, but it's glued on like a cardboard surface. The reason I like these is because they are very thin, so when storing these you can like stack them. Or they can bend like this when you leave them stored like this. All of my big paintings so far have been on MDF board because they hold their shape. When starting out, I'd like to prime my board with gesso. This can be an acrylic gesso, just a plain old white. This is from Liquitex, but you can get any brand. What I also like is starting with acrylic instead of oil for my first layer. So I always layer first with a diluted shade of brown. This one is burnt sienna. Prime the whole canvas in the shade of brown. This part of the process is called the underpainting. And for me, priming it with the burnt sienna gives the canvas like a nice middle tone. Especially for oil painting, it's nicer to like build up light colors and then build and build and build. Onto palettes. I have this big palette, which is like, I think this is from IKEA. This is a plastic one. Glass is better since like this tends to, when mixing, this tends to move a little. I really like having a ginormous palette. When I want to mix large quantities of paint, I can like really get in there and like have big blobs on there. But I would recommend look in the house for an old picture frame with a glass top to start. And then what I did is get a piece of brown or gray paper underneath. So when you mix on white, it tends to like look too dark, but whenever on the canvas it's usually a bit more forgiving. Let's continue with mediums. I would recommend using one to start with. Most sets come with the painting medium. I really like liquid. It's like a type of resin. It speeds drying, so your oil paint will dry faster if you use this, and it will improve gloss. My recommendation would be like pick one or the other. Please get a well-ventilated room next to a window which you can open. I have ventilation, like those little vent things, which are always open, and my studio has a balcony onto it, so I always open the door whenever I'm painting. So please stay cautious when using medium. The main rule in oil painting is fat over lean, which basically means oil paint doesn't dry. With acrylic paint, water evaporates and then it dries, so it becomes hard. Oil paint cures. So on the first layer, you really want to thin out your colors, like get a little bit of color and a little bit of painting medium, and like mix them up really well so you thin paint. And then while you're working on the painting, your last layer would be just pure oil paint. So sometimes I'll use pure white to like dot up the thing in the eye or the sun, like one little dot. For mixing colors, I would recommend a palette knife. It's really important that you don't get paint in this part of the brush, so only using this part, since the oil paint can get into your into the metal bit and then goes like this. This paintbrush started out like this, and then with oil coming into the bits, it lost its shape. So use a palette knife to mix your colors. You also don't spill. So if you want to mix large quantities or have control over your color, use this. And my recommendation would be to get one good palette knife, because I've had multiple like cheaper options, and what I ended up figuring is that these are like usually really stiff. The bendability of these is not, while with these I can like, so when you want to mix like this, having a little bend is much nicer than having the stiff. My tips would be, don't buy many things at once. Like I've shown you many things, but I would stick to as few materials as possible to begin with. If you like oil painting, then you can always expand. So maybe if you paint landscapes and you mix a lot of greens, then I would recommend getting a tube of green. And if you paint a lot of skin tones, then you would want to add a few more browns to your collection. Also on brushes, get yourself a few and then ask yourself, what do you like? Do you like the square look? Do you like round? Also in stiffness, do you like a smooth brush? I like mine to be a little bit on the stiffer side. I don't have the patience to wait. I like to just work in when the area is a little bit wet. Lastly, I want to talk about the cleanup with oil paint. You may think that it's difficult, but it's actually not. There are two things in cleanup which are really important, which are brush soap and paper towel. And what you want to do after you've painted is you want to wipe off the excess on the paper towel. Then you want to get a pot of water, get your brush a little wet, and then like jam it into the brush soap. Then you want to rinse it off again and do this a couple of times until there's no paint left. After you have a paint-filled paper towel, don't throw it away in a closed bin, throw it away in an open bin. There is a warning with oil paint that it could be hazardous, like fire. I haven't had this before, but it's very important that you keep it in an open container so it can breathe. I hope you liked this video. Thanks for making it through the whole video. Next video I will teach you how I clean off my brushes which are almost dead, how I revive my brushes with soap, how to get rid of oil paint. Let me know what you want to see in the future, and thanks for watching.